EdFest 2019, and we are here to talk with you about our campaign at Georgia State University called Where Do You See My Degree? This program has been going along for the last 2 years at Georgia State University, and today at EdFest we wanted to bring it to other people, and so that's why we decided to come out here to EdFest and appreciate and talk about those things. Before we go, we'd like people just to say who they are. We'll start from this corner right over there, say who you are and what year you are and so forth, and go right for it. Go for it. What year you are, major, and your intended career. Go for it.
My name is Evan Malborough. I'm a senior public policy major with a minor in cello performance.
My name is Jerome Miller. I'm a senior, and my major is
Senior
social.
where? Oh, we got to
I'm a
say.
senior at Georgia State University, located in Atlanta, Georgia. My major is social entrepreneurship with a concentration in global issues.
My name is Kerbel Bahailu. I'm a recent grad from Georgia State University with a degree in marketing.
My name is Keenan McCollins. I'm a senior at Georgia State University, majoring in journalism with a focus in public relations.
My name is Michael Harvey. I'm a senior at Grady High School.
My name is Gavin Studdard. I'm a senior at Grady High School. My intended major is mechanical engineering.
And hi, my name is George Chip Greenidge. I am the president of Greatest Minds at Georgia State University, but also a PhD candidate in race and urban studies at Georgia State in sociology and African American studies. So we're gathered here today to talk about school and education and where we're from and all these different aspects, and especially about the Where Do You See My Degree campaign, these wonderful shirts that we came up with. So I have several questions that I have everyone here to do, and you guys have been prompted before. So first thing was, how were you introduced to the Greatest Minds organization, and how has it helped you with your career and college goals? Who wants to go first?
I was introduced to Greatest Minds, I would say last year, 2018, where I was introduced to Mr. George Greenidge on school campus, and he walked up to me and basically asked me, was I involved in being involved on organization that involves minority students that want to have their voice spread, as well as be involved in like networking events to bring minorities together. So that's how I was involved in Greatest Minds, and how it has helped me expand my career and basically connected me with other people who are interested in possibly doing the same thing I'm doing in expanding networks, and also broaden your horizons to possibly align you to what you're actually pursuing to do in the future.
Next, anybody else?
So I was introduced to Greatest Minds through the Office of Black Student Achievement at Georgia State University. I started working in the office in the summer of 2017, and the space was designed, it's an office designed to be a safe space for Black people. And within that department, there's several organizations, and Greatest Minds happens to be one of them. I ran into Professor Greenidge there, and I think he just saw something in me, and then we kind of connected, and he encouraged me to become a part of the organization. The organization gave me the opportunity to be mentored, become a mentor, and it just connected me with the right resources, gave me a certain path to follow, gave me a clear direction on where I wanted to take my college career.
Anybody else want to jump in? Go for it.
I was introduced to Greatest Minds, the Wait Until You Can See My Degree campaign through George Greenidge, and it's helped me like network. I've met a lot of new people. I was able to come here and meet many people, and I've also been shown a lot around the Georgia State campus, which is the college I intend on going to. So it's helped me think a lot about my future.
I was introduced through Greatest Minds through my friend Kerbel. He would bring me along to different events that Greatest Minds was hosting, and Greatest Minds has helped me. For example, I'm here at EdFest networking and learning, and I'm also pushing my own initiative, Men and Violence Prevention, which is an initiative at Georgia State University to combat gender-based violence and just build bridges between different communities on campus.
And I think one thing with Kerbel is that you helped find an organization on campus. And,
Oh yes.
and I think, with Beer Gang. we'll talk
So
about
it was, it was just stuff that I didn't know that I was capable of doing. Becoming a part of the organization, it just kind of opened my eyes to like the possibilities. I didn't know I could start an organization. I didn't know I could get funding to host events, give back to the community. But being a part of the organization, Professor Greenidge, he kind of walked me through the steps of how to get become an official organization on campus, and through that apply for funding, and it's just been an eye-opening, incredible journey.
Okay, we're gonna talk about, change the discussion now. I wanna know what people think about. What have been the roadblocks in your education from K to 12? All right, think about some of the things that have happened to you as a young black man in the educational system. Like, tell me, like, some of the things that you've seen, heard, or felt growing up that you felt there were major roadblocks.
Well, growing up, I definitely, there was a lack of diversity in my classes and with my teachers. And I'd say that when it comes to finding motivation, that was also very difficult. I didn't find the manner that I was being educated, you know, like just the persistent, you know, assessments and all the standardized testing. It really it drained the energy out of me and made school like a very unenjoyable experience for a long time. But I think a big issue is finding the right, you know, motivation in your teachers and the teachers that I had. That was something that was very difficult for me.
Very good point. Very good point. Anybody else like to share?
My parents and I immigrated to the U.S. 19 years ago, and originally we had moved to College Park, which is in the south side of Atlanta.
Immigrated from where?
Ethiopia, I'm sorry. And so I'm a first generation college student, and it's been like a lot of pressure to, you know, both for my parents to get through school, but it's like they would press us really hard about how important education was. And then there was also the pressure of like that culture shift. So coming into, I guess like trying to like get comfortable with my new environment, not understanding the language at first, and then in addition to that, also trying to make it through school. That was the initial challenge. But then once we moved a little bit up north. Other challenges, I would say, probably was feeling lost, not having guidance. Once I got to college, there was no community that I really connected to at first. And until I started getting involved, until I started working, getting involved with different organizations, I was kind of just lost. I was going to class, trying to get my work done, feeling that pressure from my parents, and then going home. But it wasn't until I met people that looked like me, people that were, I guess, like, for the greater good, trying to like push me to go farther, that the vision kind of came more clear, and I was able to, you know, I feel like unlock my full potential.
Roadblocks, I would say lack of diversity, lack of resources. I kind of had to like fight for my resources to get into certain programs. I was in remedial programs growing up, but then had a couple of roadblocks trying to work myself to the advanced level and to the college readiness level.
So I have a similar story to Kerbel with finding community and stuff like that. So I joined the Marine Corps when I was 18. And when I was stationed in Portland, Oregon, I decided to get out of the Marine Corps, and that was about 2016. So after my honorable discharge, I enrolled into a small community college called Clark College in the metropolitan area of Portland, Oregon. So in the Marines, we're taught that we're all the same, but when I started to attend Clark College and transition into the workforce, society was telling me that, you know, I'm black. So that was my biggest struggle. And when I was at Clark College, I used to hang out in the veterans office. So, I mean, I hung out in that office because they could relate to being a student veteran. But as I started going to Clark more, and the community started telling me, just seeing me as a black man, I had to reach out and find other community, because although we were veterans, they couldn't relate to being black. So finding community was very crucial to me, finding people that looked like me. So I would say my biggest challenge in education is just racism.
A story for me is that when I was growing up, I used to stutter and I used to be able to say, I can't say the words S and Z. And I remember, I'm from Cambridge, Massachusetts. So, but we had a really good school system there where we had a lot of resources, a lot of money. So I was able to get speech teachers and so forth. But I also realized that other kids in other different cities and different municipalities weren't able to get those kind of things. And so knowing, just being able to be in places where they had the resources to support my growth is very important. So I just want to make sure that's well known and so forth. But luckily I had parents that really pushed the system to say, this is not enough. Give them more, give them more, give them more. Anybody else have any stories about K through 12?
Yeah, some roadblocks that I experienced K through 12 in my education history, I would say definitely a lack of resources. I'm from Savannah, Georgia, so Chatham County's school public systems is very horrific down there with minority students. I would say lack of resources to maximize my full potential as well as standardized testing. They make it a big thing that you have to pass the EOCT, or if you fail, you have to take the graduation high school test. And if you don't pass the graduation high school test, I think within 5 times or 4 tries, you can't walk across the stage. So I was always a good student in school. I graduated high school with a 3.4, but I was one of the students who didn't walk across the stage because of mathematics. I wasn't able to pass the graduation high school test. And I just think in a system like that, it shouldn't be like that, because when you don't pass the test and you're not able to walk after 12 years, it's like, really what is me spending my time in these classes for 12 years, it feels like it went to waste. And it makes you question who you are as a person and, how smart you are. And it's just very sad seeing my mother, have to go through that and cry. And me, like, figuring out my next option, like, what am I going to do? Should I take the military route, which I did for a short little moment in my life, as well as just like, is this it? So it just makes you question yourself and your capabilities. So that's what I say, and I feel like it's a must that they get rid of the graduation high school test, which I think they have for all students, because it's so many students who can't, do well on tests, but it doesn't define them. But it makes or breaks them in regards to personality traits. So that was a roadblock that I experienced from K through 12.
Anybody else?
The roadblock I had, up until about 7th grade, I had a different school every year, and I found it hard I've always worked better in groups or with people I can relate with, and just being in the classroom with people you feel comfortable around, but every year I had to readjust, and I had to find new people, and sometimes I didn't like my teachers, and in middle school, or at least elementary school, you're stuck with them all year, and in 3rd grade, I've only gone to private school for 1 year of my life. That was in 3rd grade. I went to a place called Briarcrest in Tennessee, and I was one of the only 2 black kids in all of 3rd grade. It was a Christian private school. Everyone was white, and it was really hard to make friends there. And my mom wanted me to stay there. It was the best school in our area, but at the end of the year, I forced her to take me out because I wanted to be around more people I could relate to.
Now, that's a 3rd grade with power, right? I'm not doing this. It's amazing. That's amazing. When you see this shirt, when you see my degree, what comes to your mind? I always think about my grandmother and grandfather who didn't go to college, but I stand on their shoulders right now as I went to Morehouse and I went to Harvard and now working on my PhD, finishing it up at Georgia State University. I see that, and I remember them, always write me those little $10 or $25 checks all the time, make sure that I do that. So when I see that it just shows me a strength of just where my parents and grandparents and great-grandparents have been and so forth. So that's what me, I don't know what you guys want to share. When you see that, what does it say to you?
I would say from seeing Wait Until You See My Degree, it's like a relief. Like, I made it from an educational standpoint, because as a black man, we're not supposed to be educated. From the beginning, that's what the white supremacists wanted. They wanted black, males and minorities to not be educated, to not understand and comprehend critical things going on in society. So when I see that, it's like, everybody who fought for education back in the civil rights days, it's like, thank you. So it's just basically it's commending those people who paved the way for us. So when I see Wait Until You See My Degree, that's what it means for me.
Anybody else want to jump in?
I think I'm very similar to both of you guys. Just like I'm like my ancestors' wildest dreams, you know.
What does that mean, wildest dreams?
Everything that they prayed for.
Anybody else want to share? Nobody else? All right, the next question is regarding thinking about where you are today. What do you see yourselves as in your career? What's your ultimate career goals? You want to share something?
Well, I've always been good at math and science, and once I got to middle school, I started taking it was kind of like engineering. It's not the way it is in high school, but it was like a math and science based class. And as soon as I got to high school, I started foundations of engineering. When I moved on to concepts, and I plan on for a while I wanted to join the Air Force. I really like physics and the way airplanes work, and so I wanted to be an engineer for the Air Force. But a while ago, on career day, I've had people come talk to my class from Delta twice, and my grandma, she worked for Delta for a little bit, so I've heard a lot of good things, and I think I might work there if I get the opportunity. And my mom also worked for L3, which is a aircraft communications company. And,
He works for Delta now. Talk with him. Okay, definitely. Anybody else want to share?
For me, it's all about empowering the community, the people in poverty, because I come from that background where, you know, all you see is people selling drugs, you know, young kids smoking cigarettes, you know, your parents being killed at a young age, you know, the school to prison pipeline. That's what I come from. So for me, it's all about empowering the community and empowering the young man in particular that this is not what you're supposed to be doing. This is what the Confederates and the white supremacists put in our neighborhoods to stop us from maximizing our full potential. So it's to basically bring equality to the whole world as well as empower the communities that suffer from poverty. And that's it for me. I could care less about the money. It's just basically bringing equality to the entire world as well as the communities that suffer and go through poverty.
When you see the words, a part of the creed of the Greatest Minds is mentor, volunteer, participate. Which one of those speaks to you? Mentor, volunteer, participate, and why?
I would say volunteering, because my family and we've been involved in many donations, and we've funded a bunch of programs. Right now, my family and I were involved in diabetic research to eventually find a cure for kids with type 1 diabetes, and I'm a type 1 diabetic myself. But we've always just been the type of family to, if we see something we want to change, we search for the change, and to benefit others so they don't have to go through the same experiences as things that we see. And charity is the greatest quality in my opinion. I feel like if you're willing to give someone else something that belongs to you, then that really makes you overall a better person.
We call it MVP, mentor, volunteer, participate. Anybody else want to share what does MVP, one of those qualities and principles, mean to you?
I would say mentoring would be the one that stands out for me, because I grew up, in a single parent household. My mom raised me, and I never really had a strong male mentor. So on my journey in life, I've had lots. I didn't get my first mentor until I was 20, and going through college and getting my bachelor's degree, I've learned so much, and I feel like I have so much to give back. I feel like it's my responsibility to mentor the younger men and just show them how to deal with situations in life that society doesn't teach us, like how to control your anger, or how to deal with rejection and fear, like all of this stuff that I went through, and I wish that I could talk to somebody and tell me how to deal with that.
Anybody else want to share?
The one that sticks out most to me is mentoring. Lost my father at 5 years old, so I didn't have a father growing up, and everybody who was involved in my life was in prison. So what I had mentoring me, I had the streets, I had church, as well as my mother. So I got my first mentor around 11 years old. He was church. He was someone in the church, and just him bringing me around his family, you know, showing me positive things, and basically him spending time with me and teaching me a lot of things. I felt like, wow, I can do the same thing to a lot of people back in, you know, my neighborhood where I grew up at. And that's what I felt like I was put on this earth to do, from, you know, a passion standpoint. I felt like I was put here to mentor people and teach them basically everything that I saw growing up, went on a, you know, just a different level, to tell them they don't have to make the same mistakes, because, you know, I saw a lot growing up, and I felt like that's what's needed in the community nowadays, and that's what's lost. Identity. I was able to basically find my identity and kind of be ahead of the game at a young age, and I feel like by me mentoring, I could do the same thing. So for me, it's mentoring.
Anybody else?
I would say mentoring for me as well. While I was in high school, well, actually during my entire K through 12, I've only had one black male teacher, and I didn't realize it till I guess I got into college, the impact that he actually had on me. He taught entrepreneurship at Lovejoy High School. His name was Mr. Davis. He was also in charge of just like most of the business courses in there. He, I guess I stuck out in class. He saw something in me. He offered me, well, he asked me if I wanted to run the school store, and I did that for 2 years. And he sort of just mentored me throughout my first clothing line that I started back then. And if it wasn't for that, I don't think I would have known what would have been possible outside of just what I knew. So I didn't know that I was capable of doing so much at a young age. I was able to make hundreds and hundreds of dollars in school, selling clothes, selling t-shirts, printing off stuff. He taught me business structure. He taught me like valuable skills. The clothing line has failed since I've left that school, but I've learned like a lot during that process. And I didn't realize it was because of him that I had like the courage, the skill set to kind of know what I'm actually capable of doing.
I have one more question to ask to close it out, but I do have a young man here. Do you have any questions for us?
Not necessarily a question, but like a statement. So I was actually headed to a whole different session, and I saw the sign. First of all, my favorite color is orange, so that drew me like, wait, what is this? Thank you. But the funny thing is, so I work with urban teachers, but I'm based out of Atlanta, and I've been wondering how I could get in contact with more black men on the campus of Georgia State. And so, one, I commend you for the work that you're doing, and honestly, this is probably the best session that I've been to since I've been here all day, simply because I'm hearing from the mouths of other young men of color. I resonate so much with just about everything that was said, from your struggles of growing up in the hood, because that's where I come from. When you ask the question about what does that mean, wait until you see my degree, all I could think about was proving myself. Simply because growing up in the hood, all I saw was a drug-infested neighborhood. Mom sold drugs, brothers, everybody around me sold drugs. And if it wasn't for my godfather, who became my mentor, telling me like, you gotta do something different. I initially thought that the road I was gonna go down was to sell drugs or be on the corner. But he pushed me to kind of focus more on school and understand like I could be more than what I'm accustomed to seeing in my neighborhood. So when I graduated high school as the first person in my family ever. And thinking about that, all I could think was, I want to prove myself to my family that said, oh, I'm not going to do it, or I'm wasting my time, or people in my neighborhood. I can recall a time, one of my closest friends in high school, like, she was telling people like, oh, Zay's not really in no college, he lying, he just moved down there. I'm like, if you knew what school I went to, ain't nobody's gonna up and move to Orangeburg, South Carolina, you know? So this a lot resonated with me, man. I'm here representing Urban Teachers, which is a nonprofit org that's looking for people of color to go into the classroom. So I would definitely love to connect with you all on different ways that I can connect with you all on campus, sponsor events, just to kind of be more involved on campus. But I definitely applaud you for the work that you're doing, especially in Georgia and Atlanta. And thank you all for sharing your stories. Like so much. I'm just sitting here like, dang, like I identify with him. Like not feeling like I had a place, or at one point I was the only black guy in a AP class. The only. Everybody, all my friends were just in regular class, remedial class, or whatever, and I was in AP classes. And I felt like I used to act out because I felt like I didn't belong here. I acted out, like write me up, put me in ISS, something, get me out of this class because I feel alone. Just a lot. So I appreciate you all for sharing your stories. So thank you.
We would love to host a session with students. I bet we can team up with Beer Game and also MVP and us to host a session with people about your urban teachers, about getting college students interested. We'd love to do that.
Definitely, I would love
We'd
that.
love to do that. We'll see if we can do that at the end of November.
Works for me.
I just, they know me. It's just like, just get it done.
Yeah,
So,
I am with it. I am
That's
with
good.
it.
That's good. We got a T-shirt for you, but also we have to close out with the last 15 minutes with one question: is what strategies do you think we should replicate in communities with the Way Do You See My Degree campaign? As you were talking about communities seeing this, should we go in more into high schools? I know we talked about going to grading high schools as college students is doing all that work. Should we go do stuff more on campus?
I think
Just keep on going. I just want you guys to think that, we
I think,
started
like,
a year ago.
I think the biggest issue like that I see in high school as a high school student, as a senior at a high school, I feel like a lot of kids aren't motivated. Like so many kids aren't motivated. I myself don't know what I want to do after high school.
And that's okay.
And I'm still trying to figure that out. And being here and everything that's really allowed for me to get a better understanding of what the college experience would be like. So I appreciate everyone that's presented here for that. But I think staying bringing the project to high school campuses is the most important thing, because then you can show kids that there's less to be afraid of in regards to college and more to look forward to. Because outside looking in, I can remember before I knew anything about college, I just remember hearing that it was going to be 4 years, that it's going to be a long time, and not knowing what I was going to do. It sounded like it was going to be dreadful, and I really was not looking forward to it. And then hearing what everyone has to say, kind of it's an eye opener. So I think bringing your ideas and what you have to say to the younger minds before they go off to college, before bringing it to college campuses, I think you need to start when they're younger, in high school, maybe middle school.
I would say start early, because I know suggestivity is a good thing, especially in formative years. I remember growing up, for me, college was an expectation. Both of my parents actually went to college, so I'm a second generation. So they were both first generation college students, the first to go to college, or complete college in their families. And I remember in my school system, little things that kind of molded my understanding of what college was. Because I remember, I think by the time I was in 4th grade, we were already talking about things like investment banking and things like that. And then I learned what a Roth IRA was in 10th grade. And it's just been like that since then, right? And then other suggested things like music and classical music and things like that really helped mold my personality and my work ethic. So I think, and then also, I think one of the most important things somebody told me was that, college shouldn't be the best part of your life, it should be the start of your life, right? Because we always talk about not peaking in high school, but honestly, you shouldn't peak in college either, right? College should be a stepping stone. So I think pushing growth at the youngest age possible is a way to suggestively change somebody's outlook on life and their output in their lives. So I think, things like that, just small suggestive things that you could push out to young kids so that their minds are molded more to adapt and advance rather than just to survive.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I would say ways we can replicate the Wait Until You See My Degree campaign. I would say informing and expounding to the parents what exactly going to college means for their kids. Because to be honest, it starts at home. And majority of the times, parents only tell the kids just to go to high school and get their high school diploma. That's it. But nowadays, high school diploma don't even really do nothing for minority students. So I would say just basically, telling the parents what exactly a college degree would do for their kids. And when the kids hear it from their parents, the kids will want to go to college or see what college is about. And when they learn about college, which is building your network, you know what I'm saying, you're finding out who you are, your identity, and you get the chance to travel, you get the chance to do a lot of things in college that high school don't give you the ability to do. You get the chance to fall down, you go through trials and tribulations in college, you get the chance to struggle in college. So basically, like I said, informing the parents first, and then the parents informing the kids, and drilling in the kids' head that they need to go to college. But it starts at home.
Anybody else? My last question for this panel is, if you had a discussion with yourself 4 or 5 years ago, what would you tell, what kind of advice would you give to that person of 4 or 5 years ago to where you are now? Any regrets, any advice?
I would say throw out your plans.
Yeah, expound on that, please.
Yeah. Oh, so if you ask me, basically, I had a plan. I would say maybe up to my senior year of high school, honestly, about what my college experience now. And then, if you look at me as a senior currently, from my freshman year, it's my output. If I could write down and send a letter to my past self saying, "Hey, this is all you're gonna do," looking back on it, my past self would be like, "What the heck is this?" Say, "What happened?" It's like you kind of veered off. But I honestly say it's for the better, because I think something I taught myself is that I undersold myself at a young age. You know what I'm saying? There are things that I'm a lot more open now to opportunities because I know opportunity is there. But back then, I said, this is the only path I gotta take, and I gotta be perfect at it. And then if you look at all the checkpoints that I had set out in high school and beginning of college, I reached none of them. But in many cases, I went a whole different way that's a lot better, right? So I would say, throw out your plans, stop planning things. I think, especially in the whole going from secondary to post-secondary education, parents, teachers, and students, they always emphasize on, well, you need to have a plan, you have to be ready to get out, you gotta be ready to do all these things. But honestly, if you keep sticking towards that in a way, it can get unhealthy at times, right? Now, of course, it's very good to have structure. Of course, it's very good to have goals, but that's very stagnant. And I think real success comes from thinking in the abstract. You know what I'm saying? Think of abstract ideas to push yourself along. So I think, just throw out your plans, because none of them are gonna happen.
Let's go right down the line. Okay.
That's a hard question, but if I had to say, I would say follow your own advice.
All right, that's good.
The reason why I say that is because just by me thinking about college and all of this stuff, I stayed in Savannah, which was a good thing for the time being, but I wanted to go off and leave home. But hearing your mother say, what if something happened, you don't have a car, you don't have a job, you could just come back here. I would just say follow your own advice and follow your own heart, because listening to other people's advice may lead you in the wrong direction, and it may take 2 years for you to get back on that direction. And of course you're gonna fail, but you really never truly fully understood what you wanted to do and followed your own heart. So for me, it would just say follow your own advice.
I would say kill all the self-doubt. I would always feel, I was always afraid to take big risks, and that was just a lot of doubt, saying that this is how it's supposed to be. If you do this, it's a good chance that you're gonna fail. There was that fear of failure. But had I taken like a lot of these bigger risks that I wanted to in the past, I've seen friends of mine that have chosen to do a business on the side, or major in this or major in that, and they're well off now. But there was always that doubt in me saying, you need to follow this plan, this structure like this, and this is the only way you can succeed. But I think I'm aware of it now, and I'm more willing to take bigger risks.
If I could go back and talk to my past self, I would tell myself, love yourself and believe in yourself and know your self-worth, and don't let anybody determine that for you. I remember, and stick to your plan, because I remember growing up, I knew what I wanted to do. I always wanted to rap, but my mom, she was like, you know, you gotta get a job, there's no opportunities out here, you gotta have a plan B. And what I ended up doing is I put my plan B before my plan A. So I spent all this time focusing on my plan B, only to realize I'm not satisfied in my plan B. So, my plan B was the Marine Corps. And so me in college now, like just learning more, like I'm believing in myself more, and now I'm taking all that energy that I used to be successful in the Marine Corps, and I'm putting that into my music. So love yourself, know your self-worth, and don't let anybody determine that for you.
This is a hard question, but if I had to go back 5 years and say anything to my past self, I'd probably say not to let others determine your worth. That, like, you know, that's a really important thing. I remember growing up, it was you know, going to school with other kids, you try and fit in, and you know that's something it's not a necessity. Trying to fit in is only gonna limit, you know, your creativity, and it only limits like your potential to really like become, you know, more than what you see in the other kids around you. Because you know, I think popularity is doesn't really mean too much. Popularity is a useless tool that serves no real purpose. And a lot of kids that are limited in these, like, you know, in these school systems that don't know what they want to do, they strive for popularity, and they strive for, you know, followers and likes and things like that, when really they should be looking deeper into themselves. So I think, yeah, try and, you know, listen to yourself compared to other people.
I would say, I would tell myself not to lose focus, because I found myself a lot of times over my high school career, like something would put me down, and it would affect my schoolwork, it would affect my home life. And if I had just stayed focused on what really mattered instead of all these little things that happened along the way, I think I'd be better off now, I'd be better off in the future. And yeah, I would tell myself just to stay focused on what's really important in the long run, than focus on stuff that won't matter in a couple months.
Good. And for me, it's really like, you know, if I talked to myself 5 or 6 years ago, it's just about making sure you have the right people around you that support your goals. Kill all crows, kill all haters, get them away from you, keep them as far away from you as possible. Really get the really positive circle of people around you so you can get the things that you needed to be done, and so forth. So I'd like to conclude today's Wait to See My Degree panel at the EdFest with a good round of applause for all of you guys. Thank you so much. We'll do a picture at the end. All right, thank you so much. All right, good. Let's get you a shirt, brother.